On today's show, we're going to be discussing the latest with the Bitcoin ETF, and Kevin is going to apologize to me about all the mean things he said about NVIDIA. That and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Welcome back, everybody. Before we get going, do us a favor that we always ask and always appreciate. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research. Kevin, do you want to apologize to me now, or do you want to save that till later on in the show when we look at the ever-growing NVIDIA chart? I'll leave it up to you.
I'll just apologize now. J-Web, I'm sorry for ever doubting your bags. I think I have to make an admission of just stupidity for even going against Nancy Pelosi, right? Like,
Yeah, what were you thinking?
What was I thinking? What a fucking idiot. No, but it's really, how dare I think that she could have been wrong for once.
Nancy's hit rate is 100%. Like, you see her saying that the price of betting that the price of something is going to go up, you just fall in line, man. Like, the American dream is no longer pulling yourself up from your bootstraps and working hard to make a lot of money. It's becoming a politician and insider trading your way to millions. That's just how it works. Just accept it and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't short NVIDIA. And again, I thought that shorting some of those companies, NVIDIA being one of them, just made no sense whatsoever just because of the value of a lot of those contracts. So it's just like, you know what? Your money could be put to better use in other places. But at the same time, buying NVIDIA up here, it's very heavy. That's the thing, right? So it's kind of one of those stocks that you just look at right now in this market and say, I'm good, just kind of stepping away, even if I was morally degrading Jensen Huang and all of the buyers of NVIDIA for the past few months. Right now, congrats to anyone who made the gains.
We've sat here and we've had to take and be berated by you about absolute nonsense. And, we stayed quiet. We let the stock do its talking for us. And now we are here. We are at all-time highs, approaching, right at the cusp of 540, up almost another, $17 today. It's absolutely beautiful. This chart just makes my heart sing. And, we can move on with our lives. I don't want to take too many victory laps right now, but just like I know you won't take too many when it inevitably comes crashing down.
Yeah, there's no point in doing that. But I will say there was some news out of NVIDIA, right, that's pumping the price up. It had to do something with specific chip sales in China. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I didn't
get the Biden administration is going to put the kibosh on that any day now. So this will be short.
But isn't it like also, of course, NVIDIA would pump this week before the Taiwanese elections too, right? It's like, how stupid was I even to think that that wasn't going to happen? So that's another one. Sorry, I'm just bagging on myself because sometimes in hindsight, things are way clearer than they are under the guise of expecting the world's financial collapse. But we can move on from that. What do you want to talk about today? We got a ton of stuff we can go over. Obviously, the ETF is the only hot topic on Twitter, other than a few other things that are, well, nothing financial related. So I won't even get into it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild what we're seeing with just the hysteria around the ETF. I mean, Ace, good to see you. Welcome back. I just sent out the tweet because you and I were talking about this a few minutes before we started, but it could be a local top due to the fact that, like, we're seeing so many people who don't know what an ETF even is being uber bullish about the fact that an ETF is coming. Like, and you have influencers hosting shows titled, "What is an ETF?" And I'm just like, it's great to learn and to ask questions. But if you've been out here victory lapping the price because the ETF is coming, yet you don't know what an ETF is, maybe, just maybe, you should remove your head from the sand, get out of your echo chamber a little bit, and, learn a few things. And I don't think a person who doesn't know what it is in the first place is the right person to be hosting a space. I'm all about, people getting educated, but man, it's just like whatever people need for attention is what they're going to do.
But you do know what ETF stands for, right?
Can you give me what it stands for?
Yeah, so everyone's saying it wrong on Twitter. Pretty much what ETF stands for is an educated Trans-Siberian Furby. And if you didn't fucking know
Oh
that, you probably shouldn't be trading this shit when the news hits. So
God,
if you didn't know that,
I remember when Furbies were just like the biggest thing in the world, man. But that's back way back in the day when
yeah, they were.
you had to go. There was like hundreds of dollars for this little fucking demon furry thing. Like it was crazy.
I thought it was a fucking gremlin. I thought you weren't supposed to like feed it after midnight and shit like that. But clearly they were separate. They weren't the same IP. But I mean, it's just, I mean, this ETF is just absolutely silly, right? We got Kathy Wood once again on CNBC today, just talking. Someone's got to like just so it shuts Kathy because she says that there's not going to be a sell off. I'm just going to go through a brief history of things that have happened in the past 2 to 3 years where we've seen sell offs. The Coinbase IPO, what happened right after that? Bitcoin sold off like a motherfucker. Bitcoin futures ETF back in, I think, what was that? It was either November or February around there of 2021, 2022. Right after that, we got Terra Luna, we got Three Arrows Capital. We went all the way down even to FTX in November of the year following that. But guys, this time is different apparently, right? But this time is
Yep,
also
it
not,
is.
it's also the halving year. So clearly we were just making up our own
We got the
rules.
halving. We got an election. Pump it, baby.
There we go.
To the moon.
But hey, we saw that the moon missions were delayed until 2026. So no more manned moon missions until 2020.
What else is up there? Like we've been there. Like, is there more to do? Like, is there like an amusement park that they want to go check out? What's going on up on the moon that is so pressing?
I heard there's a pretty good disc golf tournament that's
Is this going to turn into a financial show into a conspiracy theory show about the moon?
yeah, I don't know, man. We could do an after hours show. I wouldn't be upset about that.
I mean, this is the year of doing less in the market. So if we need to find other topics to fill airtime, I guess, it's possible.
Then we could have our little resident Furby reporter on the moon that just kind of we check in on from time to time. We could do that.
It just popped in my head. Gritty is what happens when the Furbies finally grew up.
From Philly?
Yeah, the Philly mascot.
Yeah.
Basically a grown-up Furby at this point.
Ace, let me see what you got to say here. Oops.
Ace is trying to get us back on track.
You do it. You do it. You do it.
Ace is trying to get us back on track while I'm going on about the moon and Furbies.
Do these companies have to disclose if they've already bought BTC for their funds? I actually have no idea. I'm sure they're happy to brag about it if the price goes up, but for the most part, I think they've also pretty much cut some of their BTC exposure. If I'm not wrong. I know ARK has definitely cut some of their BTC exposure. The Coinbase,
The
obviously.
only company that hasn't is MicroStrategy because Sailor is just going to keep buying and buying and buying.
Do you see him making fun of Capo this morning? What a tool. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Crypto Capo. I think the dude has balls, conviction, still believing that this bear market's coming. Probably because I also feel like this bear market still ain't over. But I feel like that's a very toppish thing for him to be bagging on some random dude that doesn't even have, his identity out in public, just saying like Bitcoin's the only offer you can't refuse. Top. Yeah, we can get into that. Let's look at the charts for Bitcoin dominance real quick because I think it'll be really interesting. And then we can talk about some of the other stuff like Tesla and Samsung, which apparently not a good outlook, but that might be telling of American and also Asian consumers how things are faring over there. But the big news today is obviously Bitcoin dominance, right? We're looking at this right now and we're at 55%. It wasn't long ago this summer when I said we go from 52 to 57 if we reclaim 52. And that was around July 14th, July 15th, which lines up with the XRP information that it wasn't a security. But yeah, I mean, here we are at 55%. And it looks like the ETF is going to be the thing that pushes us over the top. And again, we talked about this a few seconds ago. We kind of know that the ETF is coming. Therefore, it kind of makes sense that the Bitcoin dominance is going to rally because yeah, everyone's going to want to have exposure to Bitcoin if it does get approved. But the fact is, everyone kind of knows that it's going to get approved. I think a lot of the insiders kind of know it the way that they're hinting and just being giddy like little children, saying like crossing my eyes and dotting, or no, I fucked that up. Crossing my T's and dotting my eyes. Yeah.
There you go.
I saw some stupid tweets like that this morning. Well, I mean, I'm also quoting arguably the most childish pointless fucking tweets in the history of finance here. But yeah, it was just stupid shit like that we're seeing across the board, and everyone's really excited. You can tell the sentiment's really high. But look at this Bitcoin dominance on the weekly. I mean, since beginning of the year, right? This is on the daily. It's past 2 weeks. It's just been green nonstop, straight up. We're at 55.05. It was a little bit higher today, but I mean, we're not too far from breaking 55.24, which would be the yearly high that we got back in December. But we do know that as Bitcoin dominance continues to rise, let's just compare this. Let's say ETH to BTC. Look at that on Binance. Whoa, look at that. That's weird. That is literally what Bitcoin's dominance is doing to alts. And this is the largest altcoin that there is, Ethereum. And here we are. We can see that it continues to push down. Meanwhile, Ethereum's USD pair has nowhere in sight even came close to putting in a similar chart. It's absolutely inverted. Now, the question is, why is this happening? Well, Bitcoin's dominance is higher because the price of Bitcoin continues to go up relative to the rest of the alts. And as the dominance of Bitcoin continues to stay this high, that means any trading pair, coin margin trading pairs that we find on these exchanges or on these dexes, you're going to get a better return if you're shorting ETH using Bitcoin, and you're just going to get a larger return every single time. And we've seen this entire bear market clearly from the chart I just showed a second ago that these alts are bleeding out like crazy. And Bitcoin's dominance just tells us right now that sure, we're not sitting in the USD pairs, but if Bitcoin decides to dump at any given point, and we kind of know what's going to happen, I mean, and again, last time we were at this level was April 2021, which would, or 57. If we get to 57, April 2021 is the last time we were at that level, and that was relatively the Coinbase IPO, and we saw a massive sell-off. We went from, where were we in April of 2021 in Bitcoin's price? I think we're at 60K, and we jumped all the way down to 29K or something like that. Let's see. It's April 2021. Yep, 64,000 we went all the way up to, and then by July we were all the way down at 28,951. So think about that in context. Think about boom, boom. That's a 55% drop that you saw within a bull market. We're not in a bull market right now. I don't care what anyone says. There was more money, I would say, arguably back in 2021 for consumers, for these companies, for banks, than there is currently in the given situation. Bitcoin is not at the height of where it was back in 2021, right? It's not at 64,000, guys. It's it's 46,000 right now. Could it push up a little bit higher? Sure. I mean, it's very possible, but the question is, does it get that big of a push down 54%, or is it a lot deeper because we're going to realize that there is a huge liquidity crisis that we are facing, and maybe this is the perfect trap out of it all. Again, if we're counting the wave counts and we're seeing this corrective pattern and what probably is going to come next, given every time we do see one of these news events, I mean, right back here in November of 2021, that's the Bitcoin, what was it? Bitcoin futures ETF. And that's where we created the CME gap and everything like that, coming all the way down to this low. And let's see where that took us from 69K or 68K, whatever it is. I always call it 69 because it's a round number. 77%. 77% it took us all the way down in the preceding months of that year. So you tell me if Bitcoin's dominance isn't important right now. I think it's very important. I think that the alts are probably going to bleed.
A little important. Okay, just like
Yeah.
just like that much.
It's-
That much important.
Yeah, I mean it's more than half the entirety of the market cap of all of crypto, so I think it's a little important. But if we get to 57, I think it's majorly important. But just looking at that, I'm convinced that we are not necessarily in the most bullish of circumstances come this ETF. Could it pump? Yes, absolutely. I think it could get a quick wick straight up to 50,000 or so. But I think you're going to see a huge turnaround. We know that the ETF is coming. We've priced in most of it. I think, I'm not going to, say anything bad about it because I could be wrong. It could push up a little bit higher. I could estimate. Man, I can't speak today.
Okay, my voice just cracked. Jesus Christ.
We're together.
No one, no matter how many followers on Twitter they have, no matter what their profile picture is, no one has any clue whether or not the ETF is priced in. You can have your suspicions, you can have your thoughts on it, but you need to be prepared to throw your take out the window if new information comes our way. Like no one knows. No one knows. Like you can have all the historical data you want. You can, maybe if you have like the most inside sources, which in that case, you're not sharing it on Twitter, then maybe a few people know, but none of those people are out there tweeting to their followers that it's priced in or that it's not priced in. Let's just call it for what it is.
Yeah, why would they do that, especially before it gets announced, right? The announcement is the decision to see whether it is priced in or not, right?
The only
That's
people
the
who are out there talking about their insider information are either morons or politicians.
Yeah, and both of them somehow did extremely well last year.
And the Venn
Uh
diagram of that is a circle.
let's let's look into liquidation map because this is very important as well, right? And this is part of the reason why I think that we are seeing a sell the news event. Maybe I'm the only one that believes that now because everyone thinks that the market and the entire global economy is in a better place than it actually is. But let's see what we have north of here. If we go all the way to $52,000 or so, we have about $1.22 billion worth of liquidations. If we go just down to 38, we are sitting at about $7.7 billion worth of liquidations. There's a lot more money to the downside than there is to the upside. And the other thing is a lot of people didn't open up short positions and still have them open from, say north of 55,000, right? I don't imagine many people do have that open. And if they do, it's not necessarily the people who have taken the most profit in the entire crash from 68,000 down to 17 or whatever it was, right? We had imagined that a lot of the liquidity that's sitting up north of where we currently are in this range up here and even a little bit higher is low margin positions that are either shorting Bitcoin or just I mean, there can't be anything else. It's low margin that's absolutely shorting Bitcoin. Anything that's in here, I still believe is like 5x, 10x at this point. I think that's going to get wiped out, given that we see the ETF approval. But we do know that there are a lot of people who did long from way earlier. We're talking about way earlier, back in 20,000, 28,000, as early as March, right? We saw no downside in March, not March, in October. In October, when we saw that pump from 28,000 to 34,000 on that 1 month there, it was wild, just shot straight up. So thinking about that, a lot of people are also sitting in the position thinking that this ETF is probably going to push the price up a lot higher Bitcoin. Now that we know that, a lot of people probably aren't selling until we get news of the ETF. That's the other problem. And if they think it's going to go a lot higher, pretty much like they did back in November of 2021,
This will be
what
the first
happens?
ever reported instance of buy the rumor and buy the news.
It could be,
It's
I
happening.
mean, stranger things have happened. I completely agree. But we do see where the liquidity is. I think that if anything, we are going to see a mass liquidation event. Could be going up and then down, but at some point, it's going to have to find itself once the news does come out. When that comes out, whether it's tomorrow or Friday or even March, I mean, we have to be open to the possibility that they delay it once again. But I think that we are definitely going to see some volatility. But I'm going to go on a limb and say that the top for Bitcoin is very close to being put in. And I think the ETF is going to mark the local top for this kind of, I would say, corrective phase of this massive correction that we've been putting in since the top of 2021.
Okay. I think that's enough ETF talk for
Yeah.
today. You already apologized to me, rightfully so, for the mean
Oh,
things you said about NVIDIA, so we're all good there.
let's just look at this real quick too. This is the other thing I want people to realize. We're gonna look at whale alert. I just want people to see these transactions that have been happening. But we're seeing stuff like this again 6 hours
Real
ago.
quick, what
Yeah.
Ace just said is just so spot on. And but I guess where I'm torn is Bitcoin can still go up even with all of this happening, right? Because it continues to be a haves versus have-not situation. I'm not saying that's a good thing, because it's clearly not. But I think at some point we have to remove potentially this view of it compared to, what the people who have money are going to do and how that's going to impact things. Just kind of like riffing off the top of my head.
And to add to that, I don't think you're wrong one bit. And what's on the screen is a good example exactly of what is kind of pushing Bitcoin up, right? It's $1 billion worth of USDT that was minted just this morning. You can see fuckface right below it, Apollo Arduino, whatever his name is. PSA, this is 1
Every
billion US
time one of
dollars.
these will alert tweets comes out, he is like, he's got to have the notifications on for them, because he is within a matter of seconds writing out an explanation to try to keep it looking like it's on the up and up.
I know he's trying to make it seem like this dude is literally taking a shit in the porta potty and he's just sweating trying to get this tweet out saying like, hey guys, this is supposed to be happening.
What
This
does
is
the
supposed to be
shit in the
happening.
porta potty thing have to do? Like, what are you talking?
In other words, this guy can't take a shit without him
Your
fucking.
analogies, I just
They're the
love them.
greatest
I wish
analogies.
we need someone to like go through, like if we could get AI to, you know, go through all of the episodes we've done and pull the greatest Kevin analogies, I would just be so happy.
That'd be the only time I'd be bullish on AI because
It's a
there's
highlight reel of that.
a lot of good content in there. But yeah, I mean, this is $1 billion worth of tether that was minted at the Treasury. I mean, look right here, another $100 million worth of USDT. We're seeing, what is that, $78 million worth of Doge. You know, more USDT here. We're seeing a lot of money move around right now as we get closer to the ETF. And a lot of people didn't know this either, and we didn't talk about it on the show. But on Christmas morning, we saw, I believe, over $5 billion worth of crypto assets, $3 or $4 billion of which was USDT. Once again, we saw the market rally again right after Christmas into the new year. We're at a place where a lot of this is happening, and you have to question, why are they minting a lot of the stable coins? Why is this happening across the board from all these exchanges? There's not one exchange that is got their hands clean from any of this. I mean, look at this BUSD being burned probably for cash at this point. USDC, USDT. I mean, there's so much money that's flowing around right now. You have to question, why is the price of everything so elevated? Well, it's probably because a lot of people got really fucking greedy at the top back in 2021. They messed up really bad when FTX happened, and now they're trying to save some face and not be insolvent when they finally do let this market go. I think that's a huge part of the reason why the crypto market hasn't gone either. A lot of these people are huge wallets, huge bags of these, assets. Solana might even be one of the biggest ones, where we know direct exposure in the United States is absolutely insane to Solana. USDT is helping out a lot of these exchanges that were hurt, a lot of friends that were probably hurt from FTX and Three Arrows Capital, Terra Luna, all that stuff that happened in 2022. I think that's the reason why we're seeing Bitcoin continue to go up despite everything that Ace has pretty much listed right here, because I don't believe one bit that retail has pushed this price up to where it is today. I genuinely believe that this is all driven from the inside, and very few retailers have came in near the top of a lot of these moves. They don't have enough power, I think, on hand right now to push this price up the way they have. So,
All right.
yeah,
That being
that had to be
said,
said.
anything else for today? I think we covered, you know, we'll get more data later this week around inflation, but not a whole lot of news otherwise. We see oil is rebounding a bit today. What else is catching your attention?
Tesla. Tesla lost a pretty important level. And look, I want you guys to see how crazy this fucking chart is. I'm going to delete a lot of this because we're getting a clearer picture of what's happening with Tesla. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this one here. And then let's remove, no, we can keep everything like that. We can remove this parallel channel too. So what we're seeing with Tesla here is we lost the 50 moving average on the daily, right? And earlier today, we lost the 200. Now, the question is, are we going to continue losing the 200? Is this parallel channel that we're kind of trading in around 231, where we would find support? That's where I would anticipate we'd try and find support. Is that going to hold? It really depends. I'm not convinced that. I mean, sure, could Tesla go up a little bit higher? Yes, I think that, the height of it could be 299. I'm just saying that because there's a double top here, and that's my most bullish case for Tesla for the time being. But when I look at this here, if we lose this parallel channel and we lose this 200 EMA and we continue to start closing below it because of whatever some news comes out, I would think that we're going to see a death cross on the daily. We're very close to one. Let's take a look at the Bollinger Bands. Bollinger Bands look like this is testing the bottom of that, and that's coinciding with the 200 EMA. So a loss of the 200 EMA, that means the Bollinger Bands are probably going to open up pretty wide, and that tells us that we're probably going to see Tesla's price start coming down. What's a level that I'm looking at? I'm looking at 194 for right now. So that would put us right down here to see if we can hold that support. And then if we look at this on the macro, this is a massive parallel channel, right? So eventually, if we do break that, we get the death cross. There's a good chance that Tesla could come down lower. After 194, we're looking at 169, 152, then all the way down to 105. And then obviously my bear case, $64, $65 for Tesla. That'd be the pretty much the trajectory that would go if that were to fall and lose this and can just not get any bids to the points. And again, I think what Ace said is a pretty good point when we're looking at it. A lot of people are extremely bullish on Tesla, thinking in the future, whether it's the technology that is being adopted by these car companies for EVs with their charging ports, or it's their AI division with their robots. We're talking about things that don't necessarily impact everyday consumers' lives. We're talking about things that are going to be huge in the next bull run. And it's great that they're building right now. I don't think it's bullish that they're building right now, and no one's buying necessarily their cars. Did see that the Tesla Model Y was one of the best selling cars in all of 2023. That's great, but it's also one of the cheapest cards, and they had to lower the price significantly every single time. So if we're looking at this now with people running out of money, I think there's not going to be too many people in the market for a lot of these automobiles. They're not going to be taking out these loans at 5.5%. I'm just saying that. That's the truth. And I know these banks aren't going to be willing to give to some of these people that probably are going to be unemployed fairly soon, right? Again, if people aren't buying Teslas, they're probably going to fire some Tesla employees. And then those people aren't going to have money to buy certain other things from other companies. And it's just going to be a downward spiral effect if that's the case. So when I see Tesla, I'm not necessarily bullish on it. The confirmation that we didn't go higher in this kind of gives me an idea that we are going to see a death cross in the next few months, whether that's, after earnings, majority of earnings across the board, in a few weeks. That remains to be seen, but this is a very close death cross that could happen, and it could go one of two ways. We're going to watch how this one plays out. But if we look at Tesla on the weekly, you can see that there's plenty of room for it to come down, and the 200 EMA 201 seems like that's going to be the level of support if we lose the 232 level on the weekly 50 EMA. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. And the other thing I did want to take a look at was Samsung Electronics. What was it? Their operating income, Samsung earnings. I think they said something along the lines of they could miss fourth quarter profit as close as 35%.
Oh God.
And yeah, since Samsung's really interesting too, because we know that they are an international company, but who uses majority of Samsung products? It's people in Asia, right? The United States, obviously, huge amount of televisions are Samsung and electronics are Samsung. But in terms of phones, maybe the Galaxy, I think iPhones are more popular here. But if we look at Androids in Asia, it's way, way different. But Samsung warns the fourth quarter profit could plunge 35%, misses expectations. And I'm just going to read the headlines here. Samsung said that October-December quarter operating profit is likely to be 2.8 trillion South Korean won, down from 4.31 trillion won a year ago. So you can see that the operating income is down significantly. They also are one of the world's largest maker for dynamic random access memory chips, found in consumer devices such as smartphones and computers. We do know that there is a lot of issues with lithium. There's going to be a demand for lithium moving forward. We're going to keep an eye on how that affects the market. But a 35% drop tells us that people are not buying the big ticket items right now, and that's a scary thought. Not just in the United
No one,
States, but also in
no
Asia.
one's priced in a fourth quarter earnings miss for all these companies. Like everything has just purely been about rate cuts,
Yep.
rate cuts, rate cuts, and rate cuts, and that's it. And we're gonna see. This may be one of the first ones we've seen like this, but it sure as shit ain't gonna be the last. So I would say, if you are in positions where it relies heavily on high priced goods and we haven't seen fourth quarter earnings yet, buckle up, Buttercup.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing too. We got Nike and FedEx that both reported their earnings a few weeks back, and we saw what happened with both of those when they did report earnings, both down 9 to 11%. The second post market or after hours trading began, and we could see the massive gaps that are on those. So we're talking about apparel, we're talking about shipping. People using either of those services doesn't seem like they have a good outlook for Q1. I don't necessarily see a scenario where a lot of these companies are hitting earnings expectations unless their expectations are so damn low. And again, doesn't matter what it is. If we're looking at actual growth in the economy, it's year over year, quarter over quarter profits that these companies are making. We do know that all of 2022, 2023, those were down significantly from where they were in 2021. So if that's the trend, we kind of know what's probably going to be happening. And if unemployment's still extremely tight, and we got tons of people not making money from the earnings are just shit, then obviously unemployment is going to be coming back at some point in the future because it makes no sense to keep these people working if no one's buying any of their goods.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for today. House is going to be joining Kevin tomorrow for the Wednesday show. That's going to be a great one. Make sure to be here for that. Appreciate everybody for watching. If you have not yet, like, subscribe, comment, share. You know the drill. We'll be back. The rest of the week should be a good one. More ETF shenanigans. Everyone's expecting approval tomorrow. Trading to begin on Thursday or Friday. Oh, baby, watch out. It's going to be fun. So have a great day, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.